Hi, diddly dee, an actor's life. All right, kids. So we're here. We're going to be talking about the new Pinocchio. It's on Disney Plus. It has been for a week or two now, and so we're a little bit late, but nonetheless passionate about this project. And let's face it. Okay, look, some things aren't for some people. You know, you watch this remake. Not a lot of people like a lot of the remakes. You watch this, it's fine. Some things aren't for others. For some people, if you don't like it, fine, we understand. If you do like it, you are Hitler's ass cheek. I do not understand you. Please get your alien leaders to me and explain why you like this.
Present your like 12-point plan of why you like this.
I don't get it, man. Hey, look, you and I were going to talk about this, and you and I do agree and disagree on some things here. But one of the things, I guess, I'm going to give you the floor in just a little bit, is that I find the original to be one of the greatest films ever made. Not just one of the greatest Disney movies ever made, but one of the greatest movies ever made. I think it's a compact movie. It doesn't actually, it doesn't waste a scene. It's morals, its themes, everything is right there on screen, easy to tell. So how did they miss it this much? I know you disagree with a little bit of that. So where are you coming from? And then we're going to get into this movie.
Okay, yeah, because when I initially mentioned to Anglin that I wanted to talk about this, he really wasn't, he didn't even want to watch the thing. And I kind of was like, I have a lot to say about this, so I sort of arm twisted. And the reason
you owe me money.
The reason
I didn't pay for it, but you owe me money.
The reason the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because so many people, I saw people's reactions to the new Pinocchio, and they were like, oh, they completely missed the point of the moral message. They completely missed the point of this, that, and the other. And I was just like, hold on, hold everything. Because I am one of few people, apparently, on this planet who does not like the old Pinocchio for a very, very specific reason. And that reason being is there is a vast difference between childhood innocence and naivete and you are too stupid to live. And I have never liked the old Pinocchio because I don't like Pinocchio as a character, because
really, he is a kid.
After some point, it crosses over from not knowing right from wrong to I am convinced this character has severe retrograde amnesia.
He was literally born yesterday. That's one of the things. Everything is new to him.
But this is a thing that 2-year-olds figure out the first time they touch the stove. Oh, I touched the stove. It burns. I am not going to do that again for the foreseeable future. And then on we move. Pinocchio does not learn a single thing, nor does he ever attempt to. And here's the other thing at Pinocchio as a character. If Pinocchio as a character showed a dislike of the things he was told to do, as most children do at some point, they don't like doing what they're told to do, and like most children in the history of ever, they have a rebellious streak. Pinocchio, happy-go-lucky kid that he is, desires to do the thing he is told, and then 5 minutes later, completely, again, it crosses over from I don't understand social cues or I don't know right from wrong, right to I am convinced that this person would wander off a cliff if the road would.
You're absolutely right, but that's because he's incredibly childlike. If you've ever had Pinocchio is not a school-age kid, by the way, but by the way he acts, he's more of a toddler. And yes, he would. There's a scene in the original Pinocchio where Geppetto, of course, I don't know how long it takes him. In the movie, it does seem like next day he's like, go to school. But Pinocchio is going on. Jiminy Cricket's his conscience. He's supposed to be taking him to school. Instead, he comes up up against Honest John, who talks him into show business. Yeah, the whole bit is he's supposed to be responsible and go to school, but this guy comes up and just gives him a pitch about something that sounds a lot more fun. So Jiminy Cricket, of course, says, don't listen. And he's the boring guy who's talking about the rules and all the stuff, the responsibility. And the guy is saying, hey, you're going to have fun being an actor. Come with us. Hi, diddly dee. Jiminy Cricket didn't have a song. Honest John had a song. And so The kid, the child, went off with the flashy adult. Oh my gosh, yes, it looks so brilliant. It looks so fun. I'm going to do this. And so that's why he did that. In the freaking movie, in the live action movie, where Pinocchio was actually supposed to do bad and then learn from his lessons, which he does in the original movie. Instead, he says, no, you're right. I'm going to go to school. And then he goes to school and they kick him out for being a puppet. They took every ounce of and in that scene, he was supposed to learn that he did bad. Therefore, he got captured by Stromboli and forced to be into the show. No, there was no problem with it because it wasn't his actions that caused him not to go to school.
Which honestly, I'm well aware that this is get out the pitchforks and torches levels of controversy that I'm doing here. But honestly, this version of Pinocchio is a more likable character because I'm not thinking about, I'm not in the mode of, to heck with moral questions, sir, you are too stupid to live. That's the thing. And the other thing is, it makes more sense.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
It's not even his own character, and it takes away the moral. It takes away the themes. It takes away the lessons of the film by not having him make his own decisions.
Yeah, but again, I'll tell you how to do a version of Pinocchio that doesn't rely on him being stupid rather than just not knowing right from wrong.
It's not stupid. It's young and impressionable.
You have him have what all children have at some level, which is a rebellious streak. Have him actively not want to do the thing he's asked to do. Then it makes more sense. But with this version of Pinocchio, who wants to do the right thing, are you talking
about the live action, or are you talking about the?
Talking about the original. The problem I have with the original version of Pinocchio is it crosses over from a moral question to a logical question, i.e., I touched the stove. Like the first time with Honest John and Gideon, that I buy to some level. It should have required a little bit more convincing, even as a child, but that's neither here nor there. But after the incident with Stromboli, wherein he is condemned to, let's not put too much of a rose on it, child labor and or human trafficking. After that, it should have been, well, the last time I went off the path, it didn't go well for me. I'm going to try a little bit harder to stay on the path. Like, again, it crosses over from the question of not knowing right from wrong to do you even have a memory? It is where, and it makes it so that even though Pinocchio ultimately does the right thing at the end, and even though he sacrifices himself for Geppetto and so on and so forth, I'm sitting there even as a child going, I don't want you to bring him back. Morality or no freaking morality, he's too stupid to live.
Okay. Well, I obviously disagree with you on that because I think ultimately what this is, it's kind of like a lot of what Disney would have made. It's like a series of parables put together into one movie. Obviously, it's based on a book. It's been out for,
the ancient,
I haven't read
early modern Italian fairy tale and so on.
I haven't read the book since I was in elementary school, to tell you the truth. But still, he is his own character. He is the master of the fate of the film and of the. He is what pushes along the plot and the narrative in the original movie. In this version, he is not. When he gets to Stromboli, first of all, they didn't even do the song all right. I didn't like that.
No.
And by the way,
the usual failures of craftsmanship are still on display. I'm not defending that.
If I'm going to bring up the song, I do want to go back and let's talk about a few things. So
the modern references, for example.
Yeah, this version of the movie, just like the original, starts off with Jiminy Cricket. I think the animation is just spot on for Jiminy Cricket. I think what's his name? What's his name? The actor that does Jiminy Cricket plays Robin in Batman: Dark Knight Returns. The hell is his name?
I can't remember his name either. I was so focused on actually defending the movie on character grounds that I.
But I think he does a I can't think of his freaking name, and now it's It's killing me. He was in Third Rock.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Yes.
There we go.
He was brilliant because I think he must have watched the movie and came up with a voice that's very close to the original movie version. So he's walking along.
And to be fair, a lot of the appearances of Jiminy Cricket, other than the original movie, were a person doing an impression of the original actor because the original actor wasn't alive for that long.
The animation is fine. He gets to the cabin. He sees Geppetto, and he's painting a wooden boy. And through, at first they do it visually. You realize that he lost his son, he lost his wife. And I love the fact that they didn't say it until somebody knocks on the door and he's like, well, here's my life story from DNA all the way up to this moment.
Yeah,
I was like, come on, you were doing so great. It was an outfit.
Yeah, the live action Disney mistakes of craftsmanship are still on display. It was like that scene in Rear Window, if you've ever seen it. It's an Alfred Hitchcock film. Brilliant. The movie opens and it just goes around the room and you see Jimmy Stewart's life story and you can tell everything you know about him. And then it goes from the last few pictures are a car race, a wrecked car, and then to Jimmy Stewart's broken legs. Here is everything you need to know without a single word.
Visually. Yeah. And Pinocchio for just a little bit had that. And I'm like, oh, okay, wow. All right. Good job. Because Robert Zemeckis is a good director.
Then somebody got up the sledgehammer.
But Robert Zemeckis is one of those directors who swings for the fences. So when he strikes out big. Some people think, what's that train movie? Polar Express is a miss. I love it. So I'm on a different ground than everybody else.
It's got flaws. The technology wasn't quite where it should have been at the time, but
it's a fun film.
It's got a soul to it. Yeah.
So we go around, we see the clocks. Now, the clocks are in the original movie too. There's no explanation. He's just a clockmaker. And in this one, his wife loves clocks, therefore he makes them. And apparently he makes them about Disney movies that have not even been thought of.
Because the implication is supposed to be that he's making them out of nostalgia for what he would have done for his child. And that's fine and all, but the fourth wall is shattered into a million pieces. It dust is now floating in low Earth orbits.
Toy Story, Snow White, and
Roger Rabbit.
Roger Rabbit was one of them, yeah. So we do get the story of why he does and why he wants a little boy and everything, or his puppet to become a real boy because he wants his son back. So the Blue Fairy comes. And I wish we could share visuals with you without getting copyright struck, because look, the actress who I've seen her in other things. I need to bring up like the IMDb page or something for Pinocchio so I could say. Now the actress is not a bad looking lady, and she's got some talent. Her name's Cynthia Erivo. And she plays the Blue Fairy. And of course, when she came out, a lot of people were like, why are you making the Blue Fairy black? Blah, blah, blah. Yada. I don't care. The woman's talented. And she's not an ugly woman.
She can do the job. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Until you put her under the ugliest freaking blue light. When I saw her, I'm like, Jesus, kill her with fire, man. Yeah,
like, what the hell? If you remember what Helena Bonham Carter looked like as the fairy godmother in Cinderella, this is worse than that.
Oh, it's horrible. All I could think of is, don't let that near the children. What the hell? No.
Well, I mean, fairies are not to be screwed around with in the old folklore, so I suppose.
Oh, she was lit horrible.
For being scary makes a little bit of sense.
Now, in the movie, in the cartoon, the Blue Fairy's wearing a blue dress, but she's kind of got this angelic halo around her of white. This is just straight up dark blue. And it's like the entrance of Maleficent's blue evil sister.
Yeah, you're sitting there questioning which fairy court is she on again? Because I'm not so sure she's on the good one.
Well, fairy court. She lost her case. That's all I'm saying.
I was making a reference to the idea that they're in mythology. There are two different fairy courts.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
In the medieval sense of like courtliness, not legal.
So she, of course, gives animation to Pinocchio, gives him life, and that's when we get the original movie opens up with When You Wish Upon a Star. This one has, they say, okay, we're going to take this song and we're going to cut it right down to here. Blue Fairy, you have it, but we need you to sing out of key. Can you do that? Good. Okay, go.
Yeah, again, craftsmanship issues. Regardless of how I feel about the story of Pinocchio or this particular version of Pinocchio, the craftsmanship issues of the kind that you would see in like the Jungle Book or the live action Lion King or the live action Aladdin, they're still there. You're still wondering, you have all the money and all the resources of the world. How could you not do better than this?
How can you not say, okay, that was good. I loved every bit of it except for what you did. We're going to do something different next time.
Yeah,
okay,
it's like this was the first take. Can we do it? That's what it feels like. It feels like everything is, well, we did it in one take, and then
I think I was a little bit off key. Can we do it again? No. Okay.
We don't have time. We have to. We started recording this on Wednesday. It's due on Disney Plus on Monday. So yeah.
Oh, and by the way, hello to everybody. Austin P's in the house. Yes, Dalton got me to watch this piece of crap. Aloise, hello to Hillam and Dominic, Jim Sorensen, Ed. What's up? So after the Blue Fairy goes, of course, Geppetto gets up and he does the dance and everything. So it is really exactly like the movie up to this point.
And Tom Hanks is very good as Geppetto. If him playing Mr. Rogers and Walt Disney earlier didn't cue you in, Tom Hanks, especially in his old age, is very good at this.
And except for he can't keep an Italian accent.
No, he can't either. He can keep the accent, but to be fair, neither did the original. So
hey, I've only got 5 minutes of this, so let's go. Okay,
it's like I have only been paid to appear in this scene and the scene at the end, so we must keep this moving. Yeah.
His Italian accent was at least as good as Kevin Costner's English accent in Robin Hood. So
I think that Dick Van Dyke as Bert.
Dick Van Dyke's going, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate that.
You have demonstrated exactly why I wasn't terrible in Mary Poppins. Thank you very much.
It's a jolly holiday with Mary. Yeah, I love it, by the way.
Yeah, no, Bert is amazing, despite the fact that his accent comes from a freaking
Mary Poppins is in my top 3 movies of all time. The funny thing is the top 3 movies kind of 4. I could actually go to 5, but generally my top 3 movies are Singing in the Rain, Mary Poppins, and The Godfather. So that explains my personality, ladies and gentlemen.
Explain Anglo cheat psychology.
I like to sing while I kill people. Yeah. Okay, so it doesn't exactly tell you how long it is, but it gives this. I got to say, this is something that this movie does better. And that is, it does give you a sense that at least a few days have passed before Geppetto goes, go to school. And so, but he does. Okay, go on off. It's what little boys do. You go to school now. I'm going to go, wait a second. And this is where I have a problem, though. This is a man who lost his son, so he made a little wooden boy, and he decided, okay, this is going to be my surrogate son. Okay, but it comes to life. And you're telling me that this man who lost his son and now
has been grieving this whole time is going to
doesn't even walk him to school?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying he's got to go sit with him in school, but at the very least, he can walk him to school. It's just, oh, go to school. Well, yeah, excuse me, jackass. I've been alive for 2 days and I've never been there before.
And that's the other thing about the original Pinocchio that always made me go, because it seems like people tell Pinocchio to do things. He attempts to do them. He gets waylaid for inexplicable reasons. And then everyone gets mad at Pinocchio for getting waylaid by inexplicable reasons. And it's like, okay, Blue Fairy, you who brought him to life and got him out of trouble several times within the context of the original movie. Shouldn't you like stand by so that you can see how your charge is doing? Geppetto, father figure extraordinaire. This puppet creature is now exhibiting the mannerisms of a child. Do you not maybe want to make sure that no one?
Well, I can understand that everyone else, they don't know. Geppetto knows that he was born yesterday, so he should be walking along with him. Everybody else, he's a regular kid. But all Pinocchio knows is older people listen to. So it's easy to be led around. Now, of course, he meets Honest John. We talked about that scene. I think it's horrible. And we immediately go to Stromboli, and we meet a new character who, I swear to gosh, it's this little girl, and she's got a fake leg, so Pinocchio feels a little kinship to, which if you took out every scene she was in, it would not affect the movie one way or the other.
I can kind of see what they were trying to do. They were trying to do the thing they did with giving the Enchantress more backstory in Beauty and the Beast and adding a couple things here and there in Aladdin that actually did add something. That's what they're trying to do. The live action versions are the attempt to be kind of the unabridged versions of the stories. And I understand that to some degree. That's why for all my heresies, I don't actually mind the live action Beauty and the Beast all that much. Which again,
you remember that Hitler's ass cheek comment, right?
I remember. Please hold your pitchforks and torches until the end. Let me finish digging the hole before you lock me into it.
And Austin P, what's up? So okay, let's go. Like I said, they go to Stromboli. We meet this young lady. She tells a little story that, once again, forgettable and unnecessary. And then we get to the stage show. Now, one thing I never understood was you didn't exactly have a lot of time to rehearse this show before you threw Pinocchio up on it. So, but he comes down and they do part of I've Got No Strings. And this is a problem with me. If you noticed, two of my favorite films are musicals. I love movie musicals. That's
if
just
you're going to do the thing, do the thing. Don't bait us with making us think you're gonna do the thing.
At the very least, two songs you definitely do not scrimp on is I've Got No Strings and When You Wish Upon a Star. When You Wish Upon a Star builds the themes of the film. And I've Got No Strings is a set piece in the middle of the movie. You can do a shortened version of Hi Diddly Dee, Hi Diddly Dee, An Actor's Life for Me. You could, you could do a shortened version of that.
You can play around with it a little bit.
Geppetto's song, but those are the two main songs. If you're going to do Disney's version of Pinocchio, those are the two songs you leave in there. And so it wasn't even the full song.
It reminded me a little bit of when Scar sang "Be Prepared" in the live action version, and I'm just like, no, you don't skimp on the best song in the movie. God dang you!
Now, Jim Sorensen is making a good point, and I think I agree. I think everybody mostly agrees anyway. It's a Disney live action remake. There's not really any high expectations for a Disney action remake. I think that's why when one comes along and it's actually good, we're like, whoa!
The highest of the high bar is still the Glenn Close 101 Dalmatians 30 years later.
I don't count that. That's its own animal. I mean, I know it's a live action Disney remake.
No, but I mean, if you're going to compare Disney's attempts to do live action versions of their animated stuff,
I agree with you.
The highest of the high bar is still Glenn Close's 101. It's amazing that in 30 years and 10 or 11 different attempts now, not to mention the one that's in the works, The Little Mermaid, which it's amazing they still haven't been able to do as well as Glenn Close's 101 Dalmatian that was released the year after I was freaking born.
I agree with you that it is better than any of the live actions that we're talking about. To me, however, we're talking about from Alice in Wonderland until present, because that's what really started this new push for live action.
I definitely understand it's a different era, but what I'm saying is, even when there wasn't this impetus to let's make a live action version of everything, they actually managed to make a live action version of a Disney classic, and it was good back in 1996.
You and I, here's what's going to happen. I think you and I are going to tier list I'm making tier lists now, ladies and gentlemen. You and I are going to tier list the live actions. And I think there's going to be arguments and fights abound on this one. Are we gonna throw in the pseudo live action remakes like Maleficent and Cruella or not? Yes, at least the first ones.
Okay.
Cruella, by the way, I don't think that's a live action remake. That is not. It's a prequel.
Yeah, but
Maleficent is a live action remake, and Alice in Wonderland, the first one, is a live action remake. But Alice in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass and the sequel to
is a sequel to is an adaptation of the sequel book more than anything.
Yeah, there was no Alice in Wonderland 2, therefore it would not count on what we're talking about.
Although to be fair, I think Through the Looking Glass was better than the first one.
I do too. But I'm looking forward to that because there are some that we both either like or dislike. The one that you always get on to me about is Dumbo. I liked Dumbo. Dalton did not. So,
it's exactly the same as with Alice in Wonderland, Tim Burton's version. I'm sitting there going, you had Tim Burton at your disposal, and you had one of these zaniest, weirdest, most out there concepts to play. Like in a proper Tim Burton version of Dumbo, the pink elephant scene should have been 20 minutes.
Okay.
Instead of the 1.5
Hold
minutes.
on just a second. I truly have to interrupt you here. Okay. I don't know if you guys noticed, but while we've been sitting here, I've drunk half a bottle of this water. I'm going to do something for you I've never done before, Dalton. I'm going to give you the floor for at least 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
Okay. So I will take the reins while Eglantine is away, and I guess given nothing else to talk about, I'll dig myself into the hole a little bit deeper on this whole I think that the new Pinocchio is at least a better character thing. Because here's the thing. I grew up in an era of shows like Disney's Recess, Cartoon Network's Codename Kids Next Door, movies like Matilda, movies like Max Keeble's Big Move, i.e., movies that showed that children are naive and they operate under what you could, broadly speaking, term child logic, but they're not blank slates and they do have personalities. And my problem with Pinocchio is I understand it's supposed to be a moral parable, and moral this and moral that, and not knowing right from wrong is bad, and yada, yada, yada. I understand that. But there comes a point with regards to Pinocchio where it's not a moral question anymore. It's a question of, do you have the rational capacity to put 2 and 2 together and get 5? Do you have the capacity to do what 2-year-olds can do and go, I touched the stove, it burns me, therefore I'm not going to do it again? And the thing with Pinocchio getting kicked out of school instead of being waylaid by Honest John the first time is that makes more sense to me, because here's the other thing. Because I grew up in an era where children were kind of more inherently cynical than they were in the 40s, I understand the notion that sometimes you try to do the right thing and the world gets in your way. And I think, especially in today's day and age, that is a more meaningful moral lesson than just children be blank slates who can be pushed one way or the other at a whim. No, sometimes you actively do choose to do the right thing, and the world kind of screws you over a little bit. And given the justification in that scene is, you're a walking puppet, what the heck am I supposed to do with this? It kind of makes more sense.
So you moved on with the movie. Where are we? What were you talking about?
I didn't move on to the movie. I took the opportunity to backtrack to the scene of Pinocchio getting kicked out and explaining why I didn't find it to be as objectionable as you did.
Okay. So Stromboli's got him. He does the scene. I thought they were going to do the song because they bring in like the French dancer puppets and they bring in the Russians, but they really don't continue with the song. Instead, he's like looking around. What is this? Huh? And the other one, the puppets danced. It was a bit of a number. Okay. So I thought, well, this is wasted. And then, of course, show's over. Stromboli throws him into a cage, and we get one of the most... You've heard about this if you watched any review. Pinocchio, while he's talking to Jiminy Cricket, says, no, I hated the applause, and so forth. And they realize, oh, my gosh, your nose grows when you lie. And so Pinocchio starts telling lies.
He uses it.
So he can make his nose grow and get the key so they could open the cage. And everybody's pointed out the truth about this scene. It shows kids that if you lie enough, you get what you want.
But to be fair, it does show that Pinocchio has an independent personality and is capable of turning a negative into a positive, which honestly is much more than the original Pinocchio ever did. So again, I hate to be this guy, but at the very least, in regards to which character do I want to see succeed, I would rather root for the live action version, because I'm not sitting there whacking my head against a wall thinking, how are you this dumb?
The whole point of the scene is, of course, the blue fairy seeing what's going on, talking to him, says,
which he doesn't show up.
She doesn't show. No, she just appears in the beginning and never shows up again.
Yeah,
in the
never again.
But in the original, she shows up. If you lie once, you have to tell a lie to cover that until all the lies appear are as clear as the nose on your face. That's the whole point of the growing nose. And so we don't get that. Pinocchio doesn't learn the lesson, but he doesn't need to learn the lesson. He really, truly doesn't need to learn the lesson. And we're going to get to that in just a second. Just a little sidebar about, at this point in time, Geppetto decides, oh, I need to find my boy, so let me take my cat and my goldfish. I think, okay, that at first I was like, well, that's dumb. But then I remembered, oh, wait, no.
He did that.
Because in the original movie, when they're in the belly of the beast, Monstro, he had the fish and the cat. So he had
Figaro and I forget what the goldfish is. I know Figaro was the cat.
Cleo, I think.
Yeah, there we go. Figaro and Cleo.
So when I saw that scene, I was like, oh, wait, this is the things that must have happened in this movie you didn't see, but now we saw it. Him holding his goldfish while his cat's walking beside him. Pinocchio! So that's the little transition scene. And we get to we get to Pinocchio. He meets these kids and they get picked up by a driver who tells them about Pleasure Island. Pleasure Island sounds like it's a lot of fun. Let's go. Now, in the original, they're drinking beer, they're smoking cigars, you know, they're doing all the stuff that supposedly bad kids do back in 1940s. And they're no cigars, guys. They're not showing. I wish they did, because it's supposed to show the kids doing bad. If you think smoking is bad, therefore them smoking inside of Pleasure Island would have been bad, and it would have reinforced that whole thing.
Here, though, it's more about being chaotic and excessive, more so than
not
being
even.
wrong.
I'm going to challenge you on this, and give me just a second, and I'll tell you why. They're given root beer instead of actual beer. Who f***ing cares? And then, of course, there's no smoking, and they get to smash up things that they're told it's okay to smash up. They're given permission in this version of Pleasure Island to go about with all the destruction. They're not even being chaotic, because they're only doing what they're given permission to do. In the old one, they're just led, and whatever they come up with in their own minds, that's what they do. There's no supervision, parents' supervision. Do whatever, you go about doing. And they get into their own heads that we're going to drink, smoke, shoot and pool at the day, if you noticed. Also, back then was considered an adult thing that kids shouldn't be doing. But they smoke, they drink, they do all, so they do bad. Pinocchio did bad, even to the point where Jiminy Cricket comes in and he tells Pinocchio, don't listen to these kids. These kids are bad influences. Listen to me. Pinocchio goes, what do you know? Jiminy Cricket gets mad at him. And he says,
yeah, the one time there's actual conflict in the whole thing.
Bye. Yeah, Pinocchio, or Geppetto, or not Geppetto. What am I saying? Jiminy Cricket, actually, he nopes stuff out in the original.
Well,
one.
I tried 3 times. This kid is unteachable.
This is the way you're going to be. And that's when Geppetto goes and he sees what's happening to the kids, and he's got to go back and save Pinocchio. In this one, they just get separated.
Also,
there's no conflict.
Yeah, also going back a little bit, Pinocchio in this version, in this version of Pinocchio, he refuses them when they offer to take him to Pleasure Island, and he gets roped into it regardless. Which again, I think is supposed to be kind of the lesson that sometimes you try to do good and the world just screws you over anyway.
Yeah, but that's not the lesson of Pinocchio. That's a horrible lesson to teach kids. But Yeah, in this version though, Pinocchio is always good. There's no lessons to be learned. There is no lesson to be learned other than what you're saying. Sometimes you're good and life kicks you in the ass, boy, go, you know.
Well,
So
I'll defend it in this one way, because Pinocchio doesn't yield to what he knows to be bad. What he does is he makes the best of a bad situation, like the lying thing. He realizes, oh well, you know, whenever I lie, my nose grows, and I don't like lying. I'm not going to continue to lie after this particular situation, but I'm locked in a cage, so I'm going to take a bad thing and I'm going to turn it into a good thing because I have a personality and actually have agency in this movie.
So,
as opposed to the other one where everyone yells at him for doing a thing that he was never supervised to not do, and then gets him out of it anyway.
Let's see, Austin saying, I may be wrong, but I think I remember reading that the original Pinocchio's version of Pleasure Island did have signs that said it was okay to tear the place apart, or at least carve names on the desk. So, okay,
yes, it was. The point was that it wasn't about permission or not permission. The point was being excessive and hedonistic in general is bad, regardless.
Okay, so they managed, of course. Oh, okay. There's a scene I want to talk to you about. Gosh, I wish we were able to show stuff. Yeah, I should take this down at some point and like edit it.
We honestly should have done it as a watch party.
There was a scene in the original, and it's incredibly effective. And that is where you see them loading the donkeys, and one of them talks. And he's actually, I want my mother, you know, and the guys are like, screw you, you're my slave. And he kicks the kid into, and you realize,
evil human trafficking bastard.
These donkeys are human kids. And it shows you this emotion. And you go like, oh my gosh, okay, it raises the stakes. No such thing in this movie.
No,
none whatsoever. You do see the boy turn into a jackass and he starts kicking things around, but nothing as impactful as that one lone crying donkey with a human. He kept his voice, and he said, "If it doesn't." The
transformation scene also cuts a lot of corners.
Yeah.
The transformation scene that I'm convinced scarred entire generations of children.
It was like they didn't want to offend kids, or they didn't want to scare kids. Look, don't treat your kids like little bitches. Think about you. Think about how many times you saw the flying monkeys, how many times you saw Bambi's mother get shot and the freaking forest burned down. We lived with darkness. Or
my generation, Courage the Cowardly Dog, Invader Zim, Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Cartoons used to have teeth.
Yeah. Go watch Secret of Ned. That's something. You want to toughen your freaking kids up, make them watch a movie called Secret of freaking Nem.
Yeah.
And then after that, you put on Never Ending Damn Story. That'll teach them about the world and man them up. That is for freaking sure.
Yeah. Or even the 1970s Hobbit has the Goblin Town scene.
Yeah.
So
So they go about doing that, and Pinocchio goes home, finds out that Geppetto's been looking for him, and he was on the water or something. And in the scene, he actually found out that Geppetto was swallowed by Monstro, the big whale. Yeah. And this time, though, they just know he's on the water. So I forget how they do it. Is it a bird? How is it that he ends up water skiing on his own feet to Geppetto? All the while they're doing this. Hi, Dad, I learned all the lessons. Actually, no, I didn't, because there were no lessons to learn. I just got through everything like every other Mary freaking Sue.
Okay. Again, no. I'm gonna defend the movie on this one, because I think the point they were going for is it's up to you to remain good even when the world incentivizes you not to. Not through trickery, not through stupidity, but by actually making the best out of a bad situation. You find yourself in a shitty situation through no fault of your own, it's still your responsibility to get yourself out of it. That is a decent lesson.
Okay, so we'll get to this towards the end. All right, I got it. I got it here. I got what you're saying. So they finally get to Geppetto, and they're swallowed by the whale. And once again, I'm going to go back to the original, which had them in there for a while, and you get a sense of desperation. In this one, they're like, okay, it's been 2 minutes. Should we leave now? Yes. Okay, fine. and they escape. And then the dumbest, and you can't argue this with me. I'm sorry, you can't argue this. The dumbest scene, possibly in any live action remake, Pinocchio starts kicking his feet super fast, causing him to speed away from
the motorboat scene. Yeah, the inextricable. Although I will see you a Pinocchio motorboat and raise you a dung beetle sequence from the live action Lion King.
That was bad too. Yes, it was just freaking horrible. As he's like, nee, and he motorboats Geppetto. I'm gonna say that. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave that right there. No, he speeds into a cave, gets away from Monstro, and then of course in the original, Pinocchio has proved himself honest, proved himself honorable, and proved himself worthy.
Brave, truthful, and unselfish, I believe, is the.
Okay, fine. Point being is the Blue Fairy says you have earned the right to be a real boy, and Pinocchio is changing the real boy. This time around, after learning nothing, Jiminy Cricket shows up and goes, "Oh, and we just learned to accept him how he is. Good job." That's the ending of this Pinocchio, kids.
Yeah, that raises some questions, which is, in this version, he actually tried a lot harder than the old version did, because he was faced with a world that wasn't padded for him, and still stayed true to himself, still did the right thing regardless of what the world forced upon him. So he should definitely, more so even I would argue than the original version, because the original version, again, at some point it crosses from youthful naivete into you just have retrograde amnesia, and are stupid and are too stupid to live, and I don't want to see you get a reward because I dislike you as a character. This whole thing. This version knew what he was supposed to do, did his best to do it, got crapped on regardless, and still managed to find a way through it. So
this movie, and look, okay, at this point, I guess I can say, obviously, you believe that the morals have changed. This isn't about him learning the lessons of honesty and so forth. This is just a different, more morality shift. He's learning different lessons. I get what you're saying, and if that's true, then fine, and you can enjoy it on that level. Like you said before, it's teaching that the world's going to tempt you, yet you still have to be good. But I think the old one did as well, but not as well, or this one doesn't do that as
right,
good as the old one.
Right. But what I would argue is the way that the old one did it relied more on Pinocchio being an idiot, whereas this one, he actually has personality, and he actually thinks like a child, even though children can still think, they just think like children.
This is where we butt heads, obviously. But the thing is, and this is really, really the worst part, more than the super speed motorboating. The worst part was him not becoming a real boy, and the message of the story being, be your true self and know your own truth and accept him for who he is.
Yeah, no, you made him like this. You have a responsibility to what happens to him. And also, this was your bargain, oh great blue fairy of Disney. Your bargain was, if you are brave, truthful, and unselfish, then I will return and I will give this to you. Well, this version of Pinocchio, in my opinion, did a dang sight better at being those things than the original did, and he gets Jack spot. So
you like this version of the movie more than you did the original.
Yeah, because again, the difference between youthful naivete and outright stupidity, and this version of Pinocchio is an actual, thinks like an actual child with actual personality, and is nevertheless nobody's fool. Because again, I grew up on shows like Codename Kids Next Door and Disney's Recess, where it was very obvious that children still thought like children, still had youthful hang-ups, but they were still thinking individuals. They still had personalities and ways of thinking and ways to scheme and get out of things.
I
And this version of Pinocchio demonstrates what it's like to be a child more, I think, than the old version. And again, maybe it is just the generations have shifted over the years. Maybe children back in the 40s were really this youthful and naive, but maybe it is just millennialism, because my generation got cynical quick, because we grew up on shows like Recess and Codename Kids Next Door and all the other ones, where it showed that, you know, your job wasn't to be this naive little angel. Your job was to be a person who could still think, and also, yeah, there's room for child logic, which you'll eventually either grow out of or find a use for.
I, on the other hand, think that this is far, far inferior to the original.
In terms of craftsmanship, I think it is.
I let you have the floor.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm closing now. Okay. Yeah. The first of all, I just got to say, as far as animated films, I think technically, a movie made in, what was it, 1941? This was. It's an incredible film that stands up today. I think the stories is good as ever. I truly do believe this one of the original, one of the first. It's the second of all Disney animated features. Towers. I think this was just it's just a fantastic film, one of the best ever made. Not just animated movies, and part of the reason is its compactfulness. Part of the reason it tells a straightforward story, and the songs are good. The animation is beautiful. I will say this about this remake: it is a good-looking film, for the most part.
It's still a Disney live action remake, so there are still cut corners. But
yeah, I truly believe that this is miss. It just doesn't understand what Pinocchio was, and it stumbles. Obviously, you got two different opinions here. I hope actually most of you find this to be a good film. I don't want anybody to waste their time. But I, for one, I cannot give this one a good grade. So what would you, you know what we do, 1 through 10, 1 and 2 is horrible. 3 and 4 is bad. 5 and 6 is average. 7, 8 is good. And 9 and 10 is awesome. What would you do?
I'll give it 5, because while I genuinely think that this version of Pinocchio is a much more likable and root-forable character, there are still craftsmanship issues. There are still the cringy modern references. Like at one point, Honest John is looking for a stage name for Pinocchio, and for some reason Pinocchio isn't good enough, so he suggests Chris Pine, and I nearly just vomited into my television.
I am glad I didn't hear that. I never heard that joke. I must have stepped out, or maybe I was dealing with twiddles or something.
Yeah, no, there were a lot of unnecessary modern jokes that made it cringy. There was still a lot of craftsmanship issues, a lot of we only are doing this because the animated version did it, and it doesn't really even make sense in this version, but never mind. But that being said, I think for this generation of kids, or at the very least, if I had watched this version instead of the other version as a kid, I think I would have liked it better, because as I said, even as a kid, I understood the difference between youthful naivete and stupidity, and I wasn't rooting for the original Pinocchio by the end of the animated version, because morality or no freaking morality, sir, you're too stupid to live. I don't like you. Goodbye.
I'm trying to find my list of movies. I want to find a movie to make you watch. So you have to go through the same shit.
the balance will be served. But yeah, I don't like this movie for as much as I did defend it from criticism here. If you want a movie that's like this, that tells a similar message of the world is kind of screwed up, and you just have to find a way and develop your own internal moral compass, watch Matilda. Matilda's awesome. Matilda is one of my favorite movies and one of my ultimate childhood favorite movies. And I love this character. So Matilda, is a much better version of this kind of story, whereby the world is cruel, the world is screwed up, and the adults around you aren't gonna exactly be your friend. It's your job to do it yourself and be a good person on your own terms.
One thing, come on back into focus. One thing, my little obsession is I've kept lists of movies that have come out in Orlando and the greater Orlando area, so I could go back and watch them. Well, now, of course, we've got streaming services, so I include that as well. And I keep a list of all of the films that I have seen throughout the year. This is 2020, of course, and what I originally thought of them. Sometimes I go back over at the end of the year and I'm like, yeah, that's changed. And sometimes, of course, I don't. So what I'm going to do here, Dalton, is I'm going to go through this and I'm going to find a movie that is like so anti-Dalton. I'm going to get revenge on you for Pinocchio.
I would like to say boop to the head to that, but no, I deserve it. I strong-armed you into watching this, and it was a mistake. I mostly strong-armed you into watching this so I could vent about a lot of people's criticisms and why I disagreed with them.
No,
so I deserve it. No,
just to give you a
bring
heads
it on.
up. Just to give you a heads up, I use letter gradings because that's what we started with 30 years ago when I started doing these lists. The Fs are absolutely horrible. And then of course Ds are bad, Cs are average, and Bs are good, and As of course are at levels of excellence, and that's how I do it. With B- being the lowest grade, I'm willing to recommend a movie to. So there are certain films that, yeah, they're not great, but they weren't horrible. Give it a shot, like Fantastic Beasts, the new one that came out, while certain other films just aren't. And yes, that unbearable weight of massive talent, that is one to talk about.
Oh, Nicolas Cage, we love you so.
In all honesty, see where that bubble is? It's a movie that came out. It was all about filming a movie in the pandemic. The Offer got an A, and Firestarter. By the way, to me, a C grade is worse than a D or an F, in all honesty, because
bad movies are at least interesting in a what the hell went wrong here kind of thing.
Yeah, and
it's like a car wreck you can't look away from versus a fender bender.
Yes, occasionally I actually do give Fs, and one of the only ones I've given this year was to the HBO Max version of Father of the Bride.
Now, mind you, he's a lot nicer than me or Rob. He's the Paula of the three of us. So I'm a mark. If he gives the movie an F, I'm a it might as well be a gaping hole in the world here.
I go in usually thinking, okay, yeah, I want to watch a good movie, and I want that movie to be good, and I'm going to be I need to review or letter grade some of these, because the only one I've got is a movie called Fresh, and I gave it a B. And right now, in all honesty, I can't remember what that was about. I got to look that up. What the hell is Fresh? I watched a movie called Fresh.
Eglinton's brain has about the memory span of Pinocchio at the moment.
I guess. Casts. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. That is that's the movie where Sebastian Stan, gosh, I don't really want to. Yes, it's on Hulu. It's a Hulu movie. Check it out. It's called Fresh. It's got Sebastian Stan in it. Yeah, it deserves the B. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I might actually raise that too. That's pretty good. I'm gonna come up with a movie and say, okay, this is the one. I'm not gonna. I won't make it anything really. Ooh, the 355. If I suffered, you should suffer, sir. The 355.
I've already seen that one. I'm not. No, I'll go through it again to balance the account. But I've
if you watched it already, that's cheating. Did you see the Texas Chainsaw movie this year?
No.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, kids, what do you think? Should we have Dalton watch the Texas?
I don't even like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, so Yeah, that's fair.
Oh my gosh, that movie was horrible. It really was. Did you see Turning Red?
Yes, I did. It was also bad.
Really, you didn't like it? Okay, okay.
I mean, it was. Oh, I guess I shouldn't say bad. It was okay, but I could tell that they were trying to beat something in with a sledgehammer.
Yeah, yeah. It's the cinematic equivalent of unbuttered popcorn. It really is. It's you can have it there. You can enjoy it. It's not really going to do anything to you. And
I guess a lot of my negative opinions about Turning Red have to do with a lot of people who uncritically just love the thing because it pushes the appropriate worldview. My diversity and
Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, the movie. It's all about the period. And, you know, I'm not bothered by it. I watched it. I didn't care. I mean, obviously, I've had daughters. I know they go through that. I didn't care.
A lot of the things
film. It was just an okay movie.
A lot of the things I didn't like about it was they, for some reason, chose to set it in the early 2000s. And as a kid who grew up in the early 2000s, no one did their homework with regards to what it was like growing up in the early 2000s. No one.
That's actually what I go through whenever I tried to watch Meet the Goldbergs. It was 1970 something or 1980 something. So at the same day, we're going to have Ghostbusters come out and Lost Boys come out. All right. No, that is not exactly. Yeah, no.
That's not how that works.
That's why I can't listen to that one song. What was it? 1985 by Bowling for
Yeah, my thoughts were short. My hair was long. Yada, yada, yada. Yeah, I know.
It was like, wait a second. No, that didn't happen in 1985. That happened this year. This happened that year. You're way off, so shut the up. All right. Yes, I didn't cuss. I know we're on the Disney Channel too today. Yeah, I don't.
I think we both slipped up a couple of times in the course of the discussion.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, you know what? There might be we might have to look at movies that are coming out and say, okay, let's go to do this one anyway. I want to do this a little bit more. Robert said, as a gay man, I would have thought you would have thought the concept of a man who has a nose that grows longer and wooden when he lies that has erotic potential. I'm sure. Well, yeah, there's actually there's a film about that.
I didn't even think about that. And
grow up, Dalton. It's out there.
I give you a boot to the head for making me think about that because Pinocchio isn't even my type.
Right, there you go. He's too young, by the way.
Well, that, but also even if we're going by the he will eventually age up into non-EU territory, he's a bit twinkish for me. I don't swing like that.
Tell you what, get on the high seas. I just watched a film. I did too. I threw up the Jolly Roger myself to watch Bullet Train. We'll talk about that, or we can actually look to see what's in theaters and talk about a modern
Bullet Train is fun. The Woman King would be an interesting discussion, I think.
Oh yes, let's have two white guys talk about the Woman King. I like that, sir. You are fired.
Okay, I mean, we could get Mr. E and just some guy in here.
Nope. I don't want anybody holding our hands on this one. I say that the two white men should be reviewing the freaking Woman King.
I have my diversity credentials. I'm gay, crippled, and of a religious minority. I'm covered. I have 3.
I'm not even going to bring up the Buddha thing. I'm 100% white male Christian on this one. I'm from the South to boot. Let's go. I want to.
Okay, but the thing is, we both understand history and we understand how to do a based on history movie.
Well, here's the thing. If we do the Woman King, I'm going to be reviewing the movie. I understand the historical inaccuracies, but take that out and how's the film?
I would say it's still pretty cringe because it's very. It's one of those that they beat you over the head with the
it might just be so because we all know it's about a whole bunch of women who got their asses whipped by the French soldiers while they were trying to
strong empowered black women that totally weren't slavers, though. Don't get us.
Yeah. Don't look at that part. Don't look at that part. Yeah.
Don't look at the slavery behind the historic curtain. We're doing the Noble Savage thing.
No movie with King in the title has ever had to mention the gender before the woman. And there's a reason for that. All righty, kids. Thanks for hanging out with us while we talked about Pinocchio and other things. I do like Glenzer mentioning that, oh, this is a good series. How Disney destroyed blank. It would fit on our Disney Channel no matter what.
Well, that or Dalton says something that's going to incite an angry mob. Please let him finish before you get the torches and pitchphorks. That's also
I'll tell you what we could do a watch
for
party on. We could break out the bootlegs and do Song of the South.
Oh, that we may not survive that one.
Yeah. So anywho, by the way, the quick review of Song of the South is if it's not animated, it's boring. Okay, kids, thanks for hanging out with us. We're about to drop off and then back on as we've got a couple of Disney news stories. So if you haven't gone over to, what am I calling it these days? Disney Quest? I got to change that again. Because
Homegrown Tourist was fine. I'm not sure why you changed it from that.
I don't know. I wanted to, because I was only going to Disney at the time, but now I in all honesty, that's the one park I have zero interest in anymore.
Thanks to Bob Cheapskate, but that's not here, not there.
All righty. So anywho, go on over there. We're going to be talking about some Disney news and such.
I'm sure I'll bring up Bob Cheapskate at least once over there as well.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Talk about Pinocchio, and as always, thank you very, very much for watching. Have a good day, guys.
Cheers.